I'm excited to introduce Frank Pipolo. Frank joined Phello in August of 2021 and is currently a Senior VP of Business Development with CWG. Frank, thanks so much for sharing your experience using Phello, and congratulations on finding a consulting project and full-time offer in an automation and robotics company.
Thank you.
Why did you join Phello?
I think I realized that the move from my current position was imminent, and I figured out pretty quickly that I was going to need a plan. I needed a system. I could tell that right away. So, after watching Kurt's introduction video, that he had reached out to me on LinkedIn many months earlier, but I finally found the time to go and watch the video, and the process that he outlined made perfect sense to me. It was almost like exactly what I knew I needed.
Why is networking important in your career?
Well, I'm in sales, so it's very important. But I got to confess, I was pretty bad at it. Pretty bad at staying in touch with folks prior to meeting Kurt and getting involved in Phello. A lot of my accounts were fairly large accounts, so it was just a matter of staying in touch with the folks that made the most sense at the time. But now I know that is a short-sighted, view of that.
Before joining Phello, how did you find most of your roles or other opportunities?
Well, I would say, I was part of two startups. One of them was in 2007, one of them was in 2008. And for the better part of 15 years, I kind of was at the helm on both of them. In one of them more than the other, the solutions one. So I was in the same place, really sort of navigating through the same industry. And prior to that, it was either word of mouth, networking, or job boards.
How does the time value of a job board or LinkedIn relate to the time value of using your network to find other opportunities?
No comparison. I mean, understanding the process behind the boards after, spending some time with Kurt and going through that helped me feel a lot less dejected, right? The robotics of it and just the sheer volume of applicants that they get. So, I realized then after, sort of the process with Phello, it really was a waste of time, and it made a lot more sense to speak to my niche and to my network. And I found that a lot more rewarding and productive.
Before joining Phello, how many contacts did you consistently communicate with throughout the year? And today, how many contacts do you communicate with on a regular basis?
Yeah, I think on a regular basis, I'd say probably somewhere around between 15 and 20, maybe even fewer. But after this process, I would say, building up to this, taking this position and these consulting roles, I would say that I was on a weekly basis talking to 20. So maybe somewhere around 60 or so.
After reaching out to 230 contacts, how many did you end up speaking on the phone with? And as a result of campaigning, is there a memorable conversation that you had with a contact that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'd say, I ended up getting on the phone with between 50 and 55, somewhere around there, folks. And that was a mixture of C-level, VP level, and director level. Memorable. There were a few folks that I hadn't spoken to in a while, but that we had certainly had great experiences together working. But I think one of my favorite ones was a CTO. He took an early retirement, and he was a CTO of a major logistics company in the United States called XPO. And we had a very nice long conversation where we reflected on, having engaged back in 2008 and all of the changes of the wireless industry and what we sort of accomplished together. And it wasn't all, roses, but we reflected on both the good times and the bad. And it was really a great conversation. The nice thing about it too is he, as I mentioned, he retired early. So he alluded to he's not done yet. And, that's always cool. So I'll stay in touch with him and maybe down the road, we'll do something together.
When you first joined Phello, what was your time commitment to organize your contacts, and did Phello make that process manageable?
Yeah, Phello made that very manageable. And I spent many hours in the beginning. I spent many hours a day organizing my contacts. They were very unorganized. They were coming from not just LinkedIn, but personal accounts. So the process of pulling that all together, I had to dedicate a good amount of time.
When you first joined Phello, how was your experience building your personal professional website, and how did your network react to looking at your website?
Oh, it was great. It was a great experience. It was a lesson, too, that I won't soon forget because, writing, I've always found that writing my thoughts down is one of the best ways to learn and remember. And so through that process, I learned a lot about myself, but I was also able to construct, I guess you can call it like a cohesive story, for my journey. And from that, I could also extract messaging when I was on these calls or just in general, throughout the process along the way. So on the one hand, it was great to build something to be proud of, but also it helped me in these conversations to have, sort of some messaging to be able to use in those calls, creatively. And as far as the reaction, I got a lot of compliments. In fact, the position that I'm taking now started with a phone call because I knew the gentleman, the chief strategy guy. But once I shared that, it was easy for him to express what he knew about me from his experiences with me to the board and to other folks that I don't know. So I think it was tremendously helpful.
Has communicating with your network using Phello helped you to find new opportunities? And how many different interviews did it create for you? And did any of them lead to a new opportunity?
Yeah, so a new opportunity, which is going to be a full-time position as opening an organization within the current company and staffing it. And hopefully that organization is going to be a solutions organization that's based or that's for the purposes of supporting the existing sales group, but from a sort of a solutions architecture standpoint. And then the other position is ongoing, and it is a consultancy with a company in Texas that is expanding their services into Canada.
Would you recommend Phello to others?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Frank.
Sorry.
Thank you, Frank, for being a Phello member, and thank you for taking the time to share your experience with Phello. We look forward to reaching out again next quarter to help you communicate with your network.
Well, thank you.
If you're actively looking for a full-time role or advisory, board, or consulting opportunity, schedule a call with one of our PCNEs at phello.us/schedule and make sure to visit Phello at www.hellophello.com.